right? You know that feeling when you just know it's tier list time? Like, someone should honestly invent a proper alarm, full-blown war siren style, to let us know when one's coming, because that's exactly what we're diving into today. No dramatic build-up, no flashy intro, none of that carry on. It's international break, things are a bit slow, and we just want to sit down and have a proper football chat. Simple as that. So, let's crack on with it. Tier list time, and we're talking Celtic. Good to be back, by the way. Missed you lot. Been a wee break from the usual daily uploads, but hopefully this video gets us all back in the swing of things. Now, listen, if you're one of the folk that wants to know everything going on with Celtic, now's the time to get your eyes locked in and stay close. Because today, we're getting into something that's been blowing up across social media and fan forums lately, squad depth. Or, better yet, the lack of it. There's been a lot of noise recently, especially after that defeat to Rangers. That results really set folk off, and suddenly, we're no longer just thinking about the league. We're talking summer plans already. The chatters turn to who's staying, who's going, and who simply isn't pulling their weight. Injuries have exposed some cracks, and the loss at Ibrox only made it worse. So today, we're going full inspection mode. We're going to tear this squad apart, not literally, relax, piece by piece, and figure out where the real issues lie and what's actually solid. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't we do something like this last year? You're absolutely right, we did. Last year around this time we had the keep, loan, or sell video. And if I do say so myself, we smashed it. Pretty much nailed every prediction, and most of the calls aged like fine wine. But this year? Bit trickier. Last time it was more straightforward. We knew Matt O'Reilly was away. We had a clearer idea of what players were on their way out. But now, it's all a bit muddier. Things aren't quite as obvious, and that makes the job more interesting, doesn't it? So what we're doing is laying it all out, going player by player, including those out on loan who are expected back in the summer, the likes of Lagerbielke, Kwan, Mike Naraki, and others. We'll look at who's worth keeping, who might benefit from another loan spell, and who needs to pack their bags. Because let's be honest, there are a few who should have been on that train out of Glasgow long ago. Let's start from the back, goalkeepers. Easy one. All three, Joe Hart, Benjamin Siegrist, and Toby Oluwayemi, stay. No debate for me. Joe Hart, despite the odd shaky moment, still brings leadership and experience. Siegrist's a dependable backup, and Oluwayemi's still developing. There's no need to overcomplicate things with keeper drama this summer. Let's not waste time there when there's far bigger fish to fry in this squad. Priorities, move up to the defenders, and things get more complicated. Austin Trusty, for me, a definite keep. He can be hot and cold at times, and folk online are still a bit split on him, but I like him. He's reliable, strong, and still has room to grow. Whether or not he partners Cameron Carter-Vickers going forward is another story, but he's worth keeping around. Speaking of CCV, let's not waste a second pretending there's a decision to make. You do whatever it takes to keep him. Pay him more, build a statue outside Parkhead, I don't care. Just keep him. He's irreplaceable. Now Alistair Johnston's another one that's sparked a bit of nonsense lately. He had a poor game against Rangers. Nobody's denying that. But some of the shouts I've seen online, sell him, not good enough, give over. That lad is quality. One bad game, and folk lose the run of themselves. We're lucky to have him, proper modern fullback, solid defensively, offers something going forward. He's going nowhere. Then there's Naraki. Now, this is where the conversation gets awkward. Because for all the hype when he signed, he's never really kicked on. And I mean, let's be real here. One decent derby performance doesn't erase months of being invisible. It's a shame, because there was promise there, but I don't see it turning around. He should be moved on, plain and simple. There's wages to clear and space to make in the squad for players who'll actually contribute. Harsh. Maybe. But football's no charity. Greg Taylor. Now that's a tough one. The guy's been a loyal servant, but there's a weird silence around his contract situation. No extension talk, no big interviews. Just silence. Which tells me everything I need to know. I reckon he wants away, and if that's the case, then fair play. Thanks for your service, Greg, but time to move on. It leaves a gap, though, especially with Jeffrey Schlupp's future unclear. We're lacking depth in that left-back position already, and if Taylor goes, it becomes a real area of concern. On the flip side, Liam Scales, that's an easy keep. Might not be starting every week, but he's reliable, and having a left-footed center back in the squad is always handy. Doesn't tick any homegrown boxes, which could become an issue, but still, worth keeping for depth alone. Same goes for Stephen Welsh. And listen, I say this with all the respect in the world, but it's time. He's out on loan, and for his own career, he needs to move on permanently. It's been years of will he or won't he, and it's just dragging now. Let's not skip over the big ones either. Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate. O'Reilly. We all know he's getting bids in the summer. It's just a matter of whether Celtic hold firm or decide to cash in. Personally, I'd love to see him stay one more season, but I won't be shocked if he goes. Hatate's a different story, been hot and cold, and I don't think clubs are queuing up like they were for O'Reilly last year. Keep him for now, reassess in January if need be. Midfield in general's an area we need to beef up. Callum McGregor is the heartbeat, no doubt about that, but he can't carry the whole thing himself. We saw what happened when he was injured. We looked totally lost. Odin Holmes looked tidy in spells, and he ticks that homegrown box too, so I keep him. But beyond that, it gets shaky. Bernardo's one I'd be desperate to keep. Dynamic, technically sharp, he's been missed recently. If there's a chance to make that deal permanent, Celtic need to jump on it. Now, there are the loanees that are still floating about. Lagerbielke, Kwon, Kinney. You know the names. Lagerbielke's had a solid spell in the Netherlands, and to be fair, there's probably a market for him now. I say cash in. No point holding on to a player who clearly doesn't fit into Rodgers' plans. Kwon's a funny one. Loads of fans seem to love him based on, what, memes? A handful of games for Hibs? Come on. If you're not standing out at Hibs, you're not Celtic level. Sorry, but that's the truth. Johnny Kinney. Now that's slightly different. Still young, still untested. I'd say give him a loan move somewhere decent, maybe even within the Premiership, and see what he's made of. No rush to sell him just yet, but don't expect miracles either. And then there's the wide men. Young, Palma, Maeda, Forrest, and of course, Hoda now that he's back. Yang's been improving, finding his feet, and looks like someone who can kick on next season. Keep. Palma's situation is a mess, let's be honest. Don't see him coming back and suddenly turning it around. Sell. James Forrest signed a 1-year extension, likely his last dance. Keep, but we all know the end's near. Maeda and Hoda? Untouchable. Absolute weapons on the wings, and if anyone dares put in a bid, well, you know the drill. And finally, the striker situation. Or rather, the lack of it. Beyond Kyogo, who is the only proper recognized striker we've got. Oh, you think O's one? Nah, come on. He's played mostly as a left winger since he came in. We need proper depth there. Someone to challenge Kyogo, not just fill in when he's out. Because right now, we're paper thin in attack. One injury, and the whole setup collapses. And that's the point, really. Strip it all down, and we've got maybe 20 solid players heading into next season. That's not enough. Not for Europe. Not for a title push. Not for anything, really. We need numbers, and not just for the sake of filling a bench. We need quality. We need backups who can step in without a drop-off. We need to back the manager and do the business early, not scrambling on deadline day like we've done too many times before. I'll map this out properly for you in the next video, show you exactly where the gaps are on the pitch. But just know this, the squad is too light. Injuries expose us. And unless the board steps up, we'll be having the same conversation this time next year. So picking up where we left off. Let's not sugarcoat this. Celtic are sitting on a knife's edge heading into this summer. We've got a skeleton of a squad when you strip away the loanees, the ones likely to be sold, and those who just haven't proven themselves. We're talking 20 players max, and that's being generous. It's not doom and gloom. Mind you, the quality that's there is good, some of it is very good. But the overall picture? It's fragile. And that's what's got the fanbase rattling, and rightly so. Let's talk about what happens when one or two key figures drop out. You saw it when Callum McGregor missed games. The midfield just didn't function the same. Tempo? Gone. Organization? Lacking. Leadership? Non-existent. That's not even me having a go at the others. It just shows you how reliant we are on a handful of players. And reliance on a core few is a recipe for disaster over a long season, especially when you're trying to compete on multiple fronts, the league, domestic cups, Europe. You need options. Not just warm bodies, but players who can come in and maintain a standard. We've had season after season now where the window opens, and we take far too long to do our business. Every time it's the same. A couple of last-minute arrivals, a few panic loans, some stopgap signings, and then a few weeks into the season, folk are wondering why we've not hit our stride. The answer's right there. The squad isn't built early enough to gel before the real stuff starts. That's on the board, plain and simple. And that's why conversations like this tier list matter. Not because it's fun to chuck names in boxes, but because it forces a bit of clarity. Who are we building around? Who's not cutting it? Where are we exposed? And the exposure is clear as day. Let's look at the backline again. If Greg Taylor leaves, which looks more and more likely, and we don't secure someone like Jeffrey Schlupp permanently, we're basically starting from scratch at left back. Right now, our depth behind Kieran Tierney, if he even arrives, is non-existent. If we don't lock down a solid option in that area, we're one injury away from a full-blown crisis on that flank. Same goes for the center-back spots. Cameron Carter-Vickers is a rock, but how many times has he had to play through injuries because there's no one reliable beside him? Scales can fill in, sure, Trusty's all right, but let's not pretend we've got a wealth of elite center-halves ready to step up. And if we sell Welsh, which we should for his own sake, that's another name off the list. Add to that the possibility of someone swooping in for CCV, and suddenly we're scrambling. Again, and I know some folk think we've got options. Oh, but what about Lagerbielke? What about him? The guy couldn't get a look in, and now that he's actually playing well on loan, he becomes an asset to cash in on. That's not building a squad. That's flipping players for short-term gain. We can't afford to keep doing that if we want to actually progress. Right back is slightly more stable with Johnston and Ralston. But even then, if Alistair picks up an injury, we're relying on Ralston, who, let's be honest, is solid in some games but exposed in others, especially in Europe. And what then? Are we expecting him to handle a Champions League night at the Bernabeu? Get real. We need cover there. Someone who can genuinely challenge Johnston, not just keep the bench warm. Now into midfield, where things get even shakier. Callum McGregor, again, is the linchpin. But we can't keep riding him into the ground every season. He's been running on fumes at points. We need someone to ease that burden, someone who can play that holding role with a bit of intelligence, dictate the tempo, shield the defense. Holm might grow into that, but he's still raw. Bernardo could help, but again, only if we sign him permanently. Otherwise, he's back to Benfica, and we're back to square one. Haitate's future is also up in the air. One minute he looks world-class, the next he vanishes. Injuries haven't helped, but it does raise questions about consistency and availability. If we get a decent offer, do we take it and rebuild? Or do we risk keeping him and facing another half-season of frustration? It's a coin toss, honestly. I lean toward keeping him, but only if we've got cover and we're not gambling the season on him staying fit. Matt O'Reilly's departure feels more like a when then and if. He's been phenomenal, and it's natural bigger clubs are circling. We can't begrudge him the move, but we also can't pretend we'll just pluck another O'Reilly out of thin air. We need to have the replacement ready, not wait till he's gone and then spend weeks scrambling. Same lesson, different window. Further forward, the wings are a mixed bag. Maieda's a machine, tireless, disciplined, selfless. You keep him at all costs. If anyone comes knocking, you bolt the doors shut. Hoda's return is massive, but let's not forget he'll need time to get back into rhythm. You don't just slot back into top form after time away, especially with the type of injury and situation he's had. But if he gets going again, and there's every chance he will, we've got a game changer. Young has impressed recently, and he's definitely earned the right to stick around. But that's it. We can't be hyping him up as the new savior. He's a decent squad player, and that's fine. Same with Forrest, experienced, loyal, but the legs aren't what they were. His one-year deal feels like a farewell tour more than anything. You keep him, use him wisely, and prepare for life after him. Palma? I mean, what happened there? The hype was real, the start was promising, but it fizzled out fast. Whether it's attitude, fitness, or just not adapting to the system, it's not worked. Time to cut losses. Move him on. Simple as that. Then we get to the striker situation, or should I say the glaring hole up top. Kyogo is class. Everyone knows that. But we can't keep running him into the ground and then act shocked when he burns out. O's been used on the wing more than up front, which tells you how Rodgers sees him. We've got one real striker in the squad. That's not acceptable. Not for a club of this size. Not with the ambitions we claim to have. It's not even just about depth, it's about competition. Kyogo needs to be pushed. We need another number 9 who can step in and lead the line without us losing all attacking threat. And what if Kyogo gets injured? What if he hits a dry spell? Where's the plan B? That's the problem. There isn't one. And you can't win titles or make an impact in Europe when you're hoping your star man just stays fit all season. We need another option, preferably someone who offers a different profile. A physical striker. Someone who can bully defenses, hold up the ball, give us a different outball when we're under pressure. Let's talk homegrown quota, because that's a big part of this whole puzzle too. Celtic can't just sign 10 foreign lads and hope it sorts itself out. We've got to hit those domestic registration targets, and that limits what we can do. It's why someone like Ralston still has value. It's why keeping hold of home makes sense. It's even why Forrest got another year. It's not just sentiment, it's necessity. That doesn't mean we keep passengers, though. There's got to be a balance, meeting quotas without settling for mediocrity. Now, think about this. We head into the Champions League, or even just qualifying rounds, with this current group. You lose McGregor to a knock. You've got no fit left back. Your only striker's on the bench nursing a hamstring. Suddenly, the good squad everyone was talking about doesn't look so good anymore. That's the harsh reality. And it's why this summer is critical. We need to act fast, identify targets, move early, and give the manager a proper preseason to work with them. We also can't ignore that Brendan Rodgers has his own style, his own preferences. He's going to want certain types of players. And if we don't give him those, what's the point? Let the man build his team. Support him. Back him properly. Because if he doesn't get what he needs, and the season goes sideways, guess where the fingers will point? Straight to the boardroom. Again, this isn't just about keeping pace domestically either. If Celtic want to be taken seriously in Europe, and that has to be the goal, we need a squad that's not just competitive, but versatile. Able to rotate without dropping off. Able to handle fixture congestion. Able to adapt tactically. That starts with depth. Real depth. Not just players to tick boxes, but players who push for starting spots. So here's where we're at. 20 players, maybe. That's including some with massive question marks. It's not enough. Not by a long shot. The summer window can't be a reaction. It's got to be a statement. We need to go into it with a clear plan, a clear identity, and a bit of ambition. Because otherwise, we'll be sitting here in 12 months, making the same tier list, having the same conversation, wondering why nothing's changed. That's the reality. It's time to stop papering over cracks and start building something solid. Something sustainable. Because the core of this squad is good, really good. But it needs help. And it needs it now. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. In a stunning twist to the Scottish transfer market, Celtic have emerged as strong contenders to secure the signature of Rangers' rising star Hamza Igamane. The Moroccan forward, who has been making waves with his impressive performances, has caught the attention of the Hoops scouting department, sparking speculation of a potential cross-city move that would send shockwaves through Scottish football. Sources close to the club suggest that Celtic's board is preparing an ambitious bid to lure the prolific attacker to Parkhead. Igamane, who arrived at Rangers in the summer of 2024, has quickly established himself as a key figure in the squad, delivering decisive goals and standout performances in both domestic and European competitions. His recent displays, including a match-winning goal against Celtic in the Old Firm Derby, have only intensified the Hoops' determination to bring him to the green and white side of Glasgow. Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers is believed to be a firm admirer of the young forward, seeing him as a crucial piece in his attacking rebuild. The prospect of Igamane switching allegiances to Celtic is bound to provoke strong reactions from both sets of supporters. Rangers, who invested heavily in the Moroccan talent, are unlikely to entertain offers lightly, especially from their fiercest rivals. However, with reports indicating that Celtic are prepared to test their resolve with a lucrative offer, the coming transfer window could witness one of the most controversial sagas in recent Scottish football history. As negotiations loom, all eyes will be on Igamane and his future at Ibrox. Will Rangers stand firm and reject any approach, or could Celtic pull off a sensational coup? One thing is certain. The battle for Hamza Igamane's signature is set to dominate the headlines in the weeks ahead, keeping Scottish football fans on the edge of their seats. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.